sure this bloody picture's straight. See what I mean? It's constant noise pollution. Hello and thank you for clicking on this video. I hope you're all well. So recently I got into doing very long explanation videos, or kind of history videos. So I'm still going to do those videos because people really like that content. But one of the main things I wanted to do was share my wide collection of menswear with you. And so I thought I could do these small antique showcase videos in between researching for the very long historical videos. So we'll see if you guys like this kind of video, and if you do, I'll do some more because I do have a lot of things to show you. So today's antique showcase is going to be the Rimless Monocle. Now you may be thinking, we've already seen the Rimless Monocle and it's actually not that interesting. And you would be right, because I have featured a Rimless Monocle in 2 of my videos now. But actually that wasn't a real Rimless Monocle, I was just using the lens of a monocle to demonstrate how a Rimless Monocle would look. But recently I actually found a real one, and so I thought I would show that with you now and go through some of the features with you. And this one is actually quite interesting and lets us explore some of the history of eyeglass lenses. So let me show you here, this monocle here. This is the box it came with. I was told this is the original box and it looks very 1940s, so I trust that it is. This is just a cardboard box, so if I pop the lid off, and I can take the monocle out here. Now I don't know if you can see this, to be honest, because there's no frame, but if you can see the kind of glimmer, the glint of the monocle, then you can see the rimless monocle itself. So what is a rimless monocle? Well, as you can see, the monocle that I'm wearing is made of a frame, a gold frame with a celluloid tortoiseshell rim on top, and then it has the lens. Now the rimless monocle is called so because it doesn't have a rim, i.e. a frame, so it's literally just the lens. So these were very popular in the late Victorian era, and they got very popular in the 1940s. You can see lots of actors and actresses wearing them, as well as famous film directors like Fritz Lang, Erich von Stroheim, and unfortunately lots of high-ranking German military officers. And as you may know from my monocle video, when the German officers started to wear the monocle is when the monocle declined in popularity in Europe. So one of the reasons we don't wear monocles today is because of the association with German soldiers, who were of course at the time the enemy, and in England and lots of Europe there was a very anti-German sentiment, and so if the Germans were wearing it, we didn't want to wear it. So it looks like a simple lens, but it actually does have a few features that I think you'll find very interesting. Now one of the first things you'll notice about this lens is that it's quite bashed up, it's quite scratched. Well, it's a lens, and that's what happens to lenses over time. I'm sure you know with your own reading glasses, the lenses get damaged and then you replace the lens, you keep the same frame. Well, because this one is the lens and there is nothing to replace, we just have to accept that this is how it's going to look. So the prescription of this lens is kind of close to my own prescription, but it is very scratched and I don't intend to use it as an actual monocle for myself, but it's a very interesting collectible. Now you may notice that this monocle has a hole in one side. Of course this is the opposite side to the nose, so this is the side on the outside of the face. Not all rimless monocles have holes drilled in them, and you can see many photographs of generals and directors like Fritz Lang wearing them without holes and without lanyards. Now the lanyard on this one is very nice. It appears to be maybe a cotton or a hemp string. Either way, it's a brown string, and you may notice that there is a very strange knot on one side. Now normally when you put a lanyard on a monocle, you would put a loop through the hole and then you would attach it to the lanyard like so. But this one, however, has a knot right next to the hole, and you'll notice a small ball of some sort. Now this is probably a piece of wax or a piece of plastic that was melted onto the end of the string to make it easier to thread it through that small hole. Then that's been tied off right next to the hole, and there seems to be some sort of wire, or metal wire, or perhaps some other sort of plastic around that knot, potentially to secure it more or to hold the strings together, I'm not too sure. But it is a very weak string and a very thin string, almost like a sewing thread. What you'll notice on one side is a serrated edge, and if I take my calipers and measure it, I can see that it's about 2.5 centimeters across on each side. Now why are there 2 serrated edges, and why doesn't it go all the way around? Well, the area in which it's serrated is the only area where it's going to come into contact with the skin. So it's kind of pointless to serrate the whole thing, and actually the serration doesn't look that nice, and it gives a much cleaner look to have a flat edge on the outside. So I can demonstrate, of course, how this works. So I actually wore an ear hook today because I knew I would have to take my monocle off at one point. You take the string, just open the string and put it over my head like this. And you can see that it's actually quite hard to see this string. So the Rimless Monocle is a little bit more casual in my opinion, and so I think this very thin brown kind of nude colour string is very nice. It makes it very casual and you can't really see the string. So you're going to take the monocle with the string side facing outwards, and then you're just going to gently rest the serrated edge on this part of your eye socket, so just above the cheek, and then up here as well on the brow bone. So there's one serrated edge touches there, and the next one touches there, and you're wearing your monocle. You literally just place it in. So you can just do it very quickly. It's very easy. So you can probably see my circle light in the lens and not much else. But yeah, this monocle is kind of subtle. I'll try and face away from it so you can't see the light. But this monocle is kind of subtle. You wouldn't necessarily notice somebody was wearing it unless you were very close to them, or the light glimmered off of it, something like that. So it's a bit more casual and it's a bit less flashy. So you may be wondering, how on earth do you date a monocle like this? Other monocles have frames. If they're gold or silver, they'll have hallmarks, and so you can easily tell the date. But this one doesn't have hallmarks because it's just a lens, and it doesn't have a date stamped anywhere on it because I probably wouldn't be able to see out the lens if it did. So how do you date a monocle like this? It's a little bit tricky, but there are ways. This monocle, for example, is very telling. So as you may or may not be aware, plastic acrylic eyeglass lenses were made in the 1940s. But the problem with acrylic was that it was very brittle, it scratched very easily, it was a very thick lens, and it also discoloured over time and went yellow quite quickly. So it wasn't the best for clarity of vision, and they didn't last very long. Another plastic called CR39 was invented by a man called Frank Strain in 1940, but this was used for fuel tanks and other plastic applications during the war, and it wasn't actually used for eyeglasses. It was first used for safety equipment and windshields, which is just clear plastic. In 1962, CR39 was first used in eyeglasses, so if this monocle is made of CR32 plastic, then that would mean that it is probably 1960s. By 1975, the biggest use of CR39 was actually in eyeglasses, and it's one of the plastics we still use today, although Trivex is becoming a lot more popular. Trivex is a very new plastic, which is a lot clearer, a lot thinner, and a lot more lightweight. Okay, so the lens could potentially be either glass, CR39, or acrylic. So how do we find out? Well, if I take my little magician's bag of lenses here, some old lenses I've been keeping, so my monocle frames, I change them to put my own prescription in, and I keep the lenses safe. So if I take two glass lenses, these two for example, and I tap them together, you can hear it's a very high pitched sound. And if I rub them together, it's undeniably a glass sound. If I take a glass lens and a CR39 plastic lens and tap them together, you can see it's a deeper sound. If I rub them together, again, a much deeper sound. So what about our rimless monocle? I'm going to be very gentle when I do this. If I tap the glass lens against our rimless monocle, it's a much deeper sound than the glass. And if I rub the edges together, you can hear it's quite a deep sound. Also, normally when you touch glass at room temperature, it's a little bit colder. And when you touch plastic, it's kind of warm or room temperature. Well, from feeling it and of course hearing and listening to it, I can tell that this is definitely plastic. There's no mistaking the fact that this monocle is actually made of plastic. So which plastic is it and how old is it? Well, one of the advantages of CR39 was that it didn't discolour. It stayed crystal clear throughout its lifetime. And it was very thin and very lightweight. You can see that's a very thin lens there. This monocle, on the other hand, is one of the thickest lenses I've ever seen. It's very thick indeed, and it is in fact very scratched, which are two characteristics of acrylic. Now, another characteristic of acrylic is that it discolours. Well, perhaps if I turn the lens on the side here, you can see this lens has actually discoloured to a sort of yellowy colour. So looking through it, you don't get the best clarity of vision. Acrylic is also very brittle, which is why I'm being extra careful with this monocle. And actually, if I move the string over on one side, I can kind of see where the string has started to wear away at the hole. So if a string can wear away at the hole, then it's definitely a very brittle plastic. So because of this, I can definitely say that this monocle is acrylic, and it's definitely 1940s. I mean, another way we could look at this is the box. The box, you know, 1960s advertising, as you know, very psychedelic colours. This one is very plain, and the pattern kind of screams 1940s to me. And if it is the original box, which I'm pretty sure it must be, then it's a pretty good tell as well. Now, it's fair to say that acrylic in eyeglass lenses wasn't very widely used because it wasn't very good. You know, it was brittle, it broke, it discoloured, and it was very thick and kind of ugly. So previously in the Victorian era, these rimless monocles would have been made of glass, and so if they fell out or dropped or hit anything, they would smash or crack. So it makes sense to me that some of the earliest plastic lenses would have been made into rimless monocles, possibly for generals who need to quickly put the monocle in, read something or see something very far away, and then drop the monocle again. If they keep dropping them and smashing them or chipping them, it would be really annoying and it would be hard to get more monocles to the front, so making them out of acrylic is very beneficial. So you may be wondering what one of the drawbacks of having a rimless monocle is, and of course it is that you can't replace the lens, so you have to have a whole new monocle made every time, but it's also that it doesn't have galleries. Now galleries are good not only because they help it stay in your eye, but if you're like me and you have very long eyelashes, then the galleries help to keep the lens away from your eyelashes. The rimless, on the other hand, doesn't have galleries to keep it away from your eyelashes, so you have to wear it at a sort of angle like this, which isn't very good for astigmatism when you need to change the direction of light, but it can be good for a reading prescription or for distance vision. But you do risk your eyelashes touching the lens all the time, and if your eyelashes touch the lens, first of all the lens will get dirty very quickly, but also you can cause infections to your eyelash follicles and you can end up with styes and stuff like that. So that was the rimless monocle. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you want to see more antique showcase videos. I have a lot of really interesting antique eyewear, hats, accessories, canes and clothes that I want to show you guys. So I'll try and get through all those. It might take a few years to do a video on every single item that I own, but I'd love to showcase with you some of the really interesting ones. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you're new here and you're interested in menswear antiques or eyeglasses and you really want to learn more about that. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and leave a comment down below. Even if you don't have anything interesting to say, just say hello. It would be nice to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. End of video. Done.